when a brilliant but broken single father saves the life of a ruthless CEO at a charity gala. Their worlds collide, igniting a battle between pride and vulnerability, power and love, that will either destroy them both or rebuild everything they thought they'd lost. The Grandeur Hotel ballroom glittered like a constellation brought to earth. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors, where Manhattan's elite circulated in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. A string quartet played softly in the corner, nearly drowned out by the symphony of clinking champagne glasses and calculated laughter. Marcus Chen stood just inside the service entrance, his daughter's small hand clutching his calloused fingers. He wore his only suit, 10 years old, pressed carefully that morning, the cuffs just slightly frayed. His work boots had been replaced with dress shoes that pinched his feet, borrowed from his neighbor. 7-year-old Lily pressed against his leg, her eyes wide as planets. She wore a yellow dress from the thrift store, meticulously cleaned and adorned with a ribbon Marcus had sewn on himself. Her hair was pulled back in careful braids. "Papa, it's like a fairy tale," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Marcus's throat tightened. This charity gala for children's hospitals. He'd won 2 tickets in a hospital staff raffle. He worked there as a night janitor, mopping floors and emptying trash bins. Once, he'd been Dr. Marcus Chen, a rising star in emergency trauma surgery. That was before the accident, before Sarah died, before everything shattered. "We won't stay long, sweetheart," he murmured. "Just long enough to see the presentation and—" "Excuse me." A waiter in a crisp white jacket appeared, eyeing them with barely concealed disdain. "Are you lost? The service staff entrance is." Marcus pulled out the tickets, his face burning. "We're guests." The waiter's expression flickered between skepticism and forced professionalism. "I see. Well, the donation tables are that way." He gestured dismissively toward the back corner, away from the main floor. A ripple moved through the crowd, subtle but unmistakable, like a predator entering the water. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Heads turned. Victoria Ashford entered the ballroom like winter incarnate. She was 42 years old and had built the Ashford Empire, a multinational pharmaceutical conglomerate from the ashes of her father's bankruptcy. Her black gown was simple, but cut with such precision it might have been engineered rather than designed. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, revealing a face that belonged on Roman coins, all sharp angles and aristocratic lines. Her eyes were the color of gunmetal and just as warm. She moved through the crowd with mechanical efficiency, nodding precisely, smiling never. Her assistant, James, scurried 2 steps behind, tablet in hand. "The Henderson merger contracts need your signature by midnight," he whispered. "Senator Morrison wants 5 minutes. The Journal is asking for comment on the hostile takeover rumors." "Tell them we don't comment on rumors," Victoria said, her voice crisp as breaking ice. "Schedule Morrison for Thursday. Have the contracts sent to my car." She'd mastered the art of being present while remaining utterly untouchable. In 15 years, no one had seen her cry, laugh genuinely, or show anything resembling vulnerability. After her sister's death, after she'd failed to save her, failed to get the treatment approved in time, Victoria had sealed herself in ice. The world respected her. Some feared her. No one claimed to know her. Lily had wandered from her father's side, drawn by the dessert table like a moth to flame. She stood on tiptoes, marveling at the tower of chocolate-covered strawberries when a stiletto heel clicked beside her. Victoria had paused to check her phone, momentarily isolated from the swarm of admirers. She sensed the child's presence, and glanced down with the expression one might reserve for an unexpected insect. Lily breathed, looking up at Victoria. "You look like a queen, but you seem really sad." Victoria froze. In 42 years, through corporate warfare and personal devastation, no one had disarmed her so completely. "I'm not sad," Victoria said automatically. "I'm busy." "Papa says that's the same thing sometimes." Lily tilted her head, studying Victoria with unnerving perception. "He's busy all the time because he's sad about Mama." "Are you sad about someone too?" Marcus stopped dead when he saw who his daughter was talking to. Every person in New York knew that face. Victoria Ashford, the woman who'd just been on the cover of Forbes for Most Ruthless CEO Under 50. "I'm so sorry, Miss Ashford," Marcus stammered, reaching for Lily's hand. "She didn't mean to. She asked if I was sad," Victoria said, still staring at Lily as if she were a puzzle with missing pieces. Children aren't usually so, direct. "Lily sees things," Marcus said quietly, his embarrassment warring with pride. "She's always been perceptive." For the first time in years, Victoria truly looked, at another human being. She saw the threadbare suit, the work-roughened hands, the exhaustion carved into this man's face. But she also saw something else. The way his hand gently cradled his daughter's shoulder, the protective stance, the profound love in his eyes when he looked at the child. Something cracked in her chest, barely perceptible, a hairline fracture in permafrost. "Marcus? Marcus Chen?" A voice boomed across the ballroom. "Is that you?" A man in a designer tuxedo approached, champagne glass in hand, his face flushed with alcohol and malice. Dr. Richard Pemberton, Marcus's former colleague, the one who'd testified against him at the medical board hearing. "My God, it is you." Pemberton laughed, loud enough to draw attention. "What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be—" "Oh, that's right. You're cleaning toilets now, aren't you?" The conversations around them died. A circle of spectators formed, drawn by the scent of social blood in the water. Marcus's face went white. "Richard, please." No, this is Rich," Pemberton continued, emboldened by his audience. "The great Dr. Chen, who thought he was going to revolutionize trauma surgery. Now he's what? Mopping floors? How the mighty have fallen." "That's enough," Marcus said quietly, his hand tightening on Lily's shoulder. "Is it though?" A woman in a glittering dress chimed in, Pemberton's wife, Miranda. "I mean, after what happened, you're lucky they let you anywhere near a hospital, even as janitor." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Don't talk to my papa like that. He's good and kind and—" "Lily, let's go," Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. "Yes, probably best," Pemberton smirked. "Wouldn't want to upset the real donors." Victoria Ashford had been watching this exchange with an expression that could have frozen nitrogen. She stepped forward, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Dr. Pemberton," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a scalpel. "I've reviewed your research proposals. Derivative. Poorly designed. Frankly, embarrassing." Pemberton's face went from flushed to crimson. "Miss Ashford, I'm not finished." Victoria's eyes were Arctic death. "Your department has received exactly 0 funding from Ashford Pharmaceutical in 3 years. That will continue indefinitely. As for you, Mrs. Pemberton, your husband's malpractice insurance premiums must be astronomical given his error rate. I'd check those financial records carefully." She turned to Marcus and Lily, and something infinitesimal softened in her expression. "Would you join me? I have a private table, and I find the company here." She glanced back at the Pembertons, lacking in substance. Marcus stared at her, stunned. Lily, however, beamed and grabbed Victoria's hand. "Yes, please. Can we see the chocolate fountain up close?" Victoria looked down at the small hand in hers, warm, trusting, alive. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had touched her voluntarily. "Yes," she heard herself say. "We can. P." Victoria's reserved table sat elevated on a platform overlooking the ballroom floor, a throne from which to observe, but never participate. James had orchestrated the seating to ensure maximum isolation. Now, 3 chairs were occupied instead of 1. Lily sat between Marcus and Victoria, her legs swinging, not quite reaching the floor. The difference between regular chocolate and Papa's special hot chocolate that he makes when I'm sad. He puts in cinnamon and a tiny bit of chili powder, Lily confided to Victoria. It makes your tongue tingle and your heart warm. Victoria found herself actually listening, her phone face down on the table, something James, watching from across the room, recognized as unprecedented. "Your father sounds resourceful," Victoria said. "Papa can fix anything," Lily declared. "He fixed my bike and my dollhouse and Mrs. Chen's sink. And—" She paused, her voice dropping. "He couldn't fix Mama, though. Nobody could." Silence fell like snow. Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes distant. "Lily," he said softly, "we don't need to talk about—" "It's all right," Victoria interrupted, surprising herself. She looked at Marcus. "My sister died 15 years ago. Autoimmune disease. Experimental treatment was available, but not approved fast enough." Her voice was clinical, controlled, but her hands were white-knuckled on the table. "I understand loss." Marcus met her eyes, and something passed between them, a recognition, survivor to survivor, of shared devastation. The charity auction was underway. A painting, a vacation package, a vintage wine collection. The amounts being bid were absurd, more money spent on frivolities than Marcus earned in a year. Victoria had bid mechanically on several items, winning through sheer intimidation rather than genuine interest. Lily was fascinated by the whole process. $500,000 for a weekend trip? Lily whispered, awed. "Papa, that's more than—" She didn't finish. Victoria had suddenly gripped the edge of the table, her face going gray. "Ms. Ashford?" Marcus said sharply. Victoria's breath came in short, sharp gasps. Her hand clutched her chest. The ballroom tilted in her vision, the lights too bright, the air too thin. She felt herself falling back into that hospital room, watching her sister die, feeling the walls close in, drowning in her own helplessness. "Panic attack," Marcus said immediately, his voice transforming, no longer the timid janitor, but someone else entirely. "Victoria, look at me. Eyes on me." He'd moved beside her, his hand on her wrist, fingers on her pulse. His other hand gently gripped her shoulder. "Breathe with me," he commanded, his voice steady and authoritative. "In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, with me, now." Victoria's eyes locked onto his, desperate, terrified, vulnerable. She followed his breathing, mimicking the pattern. The ballroom had gone silent. 100 pairs of eyes watched Victoria Ashford, the unbreakable ice queen, having a breakdown. "That's it," Marcus murmured, his voice dropping to something gentle, private. "You're safe. I've got you. 4 counts in." Slowly, her breathing stabilized. Color returned to her face. The world stopped spinning. "Medical training?" she whispered hoarsely. Something like that, Marcus said, still monitoring her pulse. We need to get you somewhere quiet. Lily, sweetie, stay close. James materialized, frantic. Miss Ashford, I'll call your car, the paramedics. No, Victoria said, finding her voice. No scene, no press. She looked at Marcus. Please, just somewhere away from here. The hotel maintained a private medical suite on the top floor for emergencies. Marcus had clearance. He was technically medical staff at the children's hospital. He'd gotten Victoria there through the service elevator, avoiding the crowds. The suite was quiet, sterile, safe. Victoria sat on the examination table, still trembling slightly. Lily sat in a chair nearby, swinging her legs, watching with concerned eyes. Marcus checked Victoria's blood pressure, his movements professional and efficient. When he touched her wrist to check her pulse again, his hands were gentle. Heart rate stabilizing, he said. Blood pressure's coming down. You're going to be okay. I don't have panic attacks, Victoria said, but her voice lacked conviction. You do now, Marcus replied, not unkindly. Trauma, stress, loss. They don't stay buried forever. Eventually, the body demands payment. He pulled a chair close and sat, his eyes level with hers. In this small room, the power dynamic had shifted. He was the doctor. She was the patient. What happened? He asked quietly. My sister. Victoria's voice cracked. The auction. Someone bid on a medical research grant. It triggered. I remembered the grant I tried to get approved for her. 3 weeks too late. She died waiting for bureaucrats to sign papers. Tears, actual tears, ran down her face. She looked horrified by her own vulnerability. Marcus handed her a tissue. 3 years ago, my wife was in a car accident. Multiple trauma. I was on shift in the ER when they brought her in. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. They wouldn't let me treat her. Protocol. I had to stand there and watch while someone else, someone less experienced, tried to save her. She died on the table. Died while I stood there, useless. Victoria stared at him. You're a doctor. Was. The medical board said I was too close, too emotional. They said I compromised patient care because I couldn't maintain professional distance. They revoked my license. Marcus's laugh was bitter. Maybe they were right. I couldn't save the one person who mattered most. So you clean floors, Victoria said softly. So I'm there, Marcus corrected. At the hospital, where medicine happens, where people get saved, even if I can't be the one doing it anymore. He looked at Lily, and I'm present for her, something I failed at before. I was always at work, always busy saving strangers. Sarah used to joke that she'd have to fake a heart attack to get my attention. Papa, Lily said quietly, Mama didn't want you to be sad forever. Marcus's eyes glistened. I know, sweetheart. Victoria wiped her face, pulling herself together with visible effort. Why did you help me, defend me? You don't know me. Lily does, Marcus said simply. She sees people. She said you were sad. That was enough. For the first time in 15 years, Victoria Ashford felt seen. They'd been in the medical suite for 20 minutes when Lily suddenly slumped in her chair, her face going pale. Lily. Marcus was on his feet instantly. Sweetheart. Feel dizzy, Papa, she whispered. My chest feels funny. Marcus's face went white with terror. He scooped her up, laying her on the examination table. His hands trembled as he checked her pulse. Victoria, in my jacket pocket, there's a small orange bottle. Get it, now. Victoria moved faster than she'd ever moved, finding the prescription bottle. The label read, Digoxin, Lillian Chen, Pediatric Cardiology. She has a heart condition? Victoria breathed. Congenital defect. Needs medication twice daily and surgery we can't afford. Marcus's voice was breaking as he administered the medication. Lily, stay with me, baby. Papa's here. The little girl's eyes were fluttering. Papa, I'm scared. I know. You're going to be okay, I promise. But his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the stethoscope. Victoria grabbed his shoulders. Marcus, you can't help her like this. Breathe. You taught me. Now I'm teaching you. Their eyes met, doctor to doctor, survivor to survivor. Marcus nodded, forcing himself to breathe, to think, to become Dr. Chen again, instead of just a terrified father. Her condition is stable but deteriorating, he said, his voice steadying. She needs surgery. The waiting list at public hospitals is 18 months. Private hospitals want $200,000 up front. I've been working double shifts, saving everything. But I'm not even halfway there. Victoria looked down at this brave little girl who'd asked if she was sad, who'd held her hand, who'd seen through her armor with pure, innocent wisdom. Call my car, Victoria said, her voice sharp with decision. Call my personal physician. We're taking her to Ashford Memorial right now. I can't accept, Marcus started. This isn't charity, Victoria cut him off. This is me paying a debt. Your daughter gave me something tonight. She reminded me why I built my company in the first place. Not for profit, not for power, but because my sister deserved to live, and children like her deserve futures. She touched Lily's small hand gently. I'm going to make sure you get that surgery, Lily. I promise. Lily smiled weakly. Thank you, Queen Victoria. Despite everything, Victoria Ashford smiled. Really smiled. Ashford Memorial's private wing hummed with quiet efficiency. Lily had been stabilized, given a suite, and scheduled for surgery in 3 days with the best pediatric cardiac surgeon on the East Coast. Marcus sat beside her bed, holding her hand as she slept. Victoria stood by the window, making calls, pulling strings, ensuring everything was perfect. James appeared in the doorway, his expression grave. Ms. Ashford, you need to see this. He handed her a tablet. The screen showed a news article. Ice Queen melts? Victoria Ashford seen crying at charity gala. Is the empire crumbling? Below it, a photo, Victoria, tears streaming, Marcus's hand on her shoulder. The comments were vicious. Investors questioning her stability, competitors scenting blood. Victoria's face hardened. Damage control, schedule a board meeting for tomorrow morning. There's more, James said quietly. Richard Pemberton has filed a complaint with hospital administration. He's claiming Marcus Chen is practicing medicine without a license, using you to gain illegal access to patients. Marcus looked up, horror dawning. I administered Lily's prescribed medication. That's not... It doesn't matter what's true, Victoria said coldly. It matters what can be proven, and right now, you're vulnerable. The board meeting was a massacre. Victoria sat at the head of the table, 12 board members, arrayed like a firing squad. The lead investor, Harold Chen, no relation to Marcus, stood at a projector screen showing graphs, charts, and that damning photograph. Your behavior is erratic, Harold said, his voice dripping with false concern. Panic attacks at public events, emotional outbursts, associations with disgraced medical professionals. The shareholders are concerned. The shareholders, Victoria said icily, can review the quarterly reports showing record profits. Profits built on your reputation for ruthless stability. Another board member interjected. That reputation is now in question. We're calling for a vote of no confidence. Victoria's face revealed nothing, but her hands were clenched beneath the table. She'd built this company from nothing. Every brick, every employee, every success, hers. And they were going to take it because she'd shown a moment of human weakness. Before we vote, Harold continued. I'd like to present our alternative candidate for CEO, someone who embodies the cold rationality this company requires. The conference room door opened. James walked in. Victoria's assistant, her right hand for 7 years. The man who knew every password, every contract, every secret. James, Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry, Victoria, James said, and he almost sounded sincere. But you've changed. You're compromised. The company needs leadership that won't be distracted by sentimentality. The betrayal was a knife between her ribs. Victoria stood, slowly, her face a mask. I see. Her voice could have frozen oceans. Then let's vote. Marcus arrived at the hospital that evening to find Victoria sitting in the waiting room, still in her business suit, staring at nothing. They took it, she said flatly. My company, my life's work, voted out by the board. James staged a coup with Harold's backing. I'm so sorry, Marcus said, sitting beside her. This is my fault. If I hadn't... No. Victoria looked at him, and her eyes were fire and ice. This is their fault. They underestimated me. Everyone always does. She pulled out her phone. They think I'm broken, weak, but they forgot something. A predatory smile crossed her face. I didn't build that empire by playing nice. I built it by being smarter than everyone else in the room. She dialed a number. Senator Morrison, it's Victoria Ashford. Remember that favor you owe me. I'm calling it in. Another call. David? Yes, from MIT. I need your forensic accounting team. Full audit of Ashford Pharmaceutical, specifically financial transactions authorized by James Chen in the last 6 months. Another. Dr. Reynolds, how would you like funding for that research program? The one Harold Chen rejected last year. Full budget. Your name is lead. Marcus watched in awe as Victoria systematically dismantled the coup, piece by piece, with surgical precision. James has been embezzling, Victoria explained as she worked. Small amounts, cleverly hidden. I suspected months ago, but needed evidence. He accelerated the timeline by betraying me. She smiled grimly. Harold accepted bribes from 3 competing firms to destabilize Ashford Pharma from within. Senator Morrison can ensure that information reaches the SEC. You plan this? Marcus asked. I always have contingencies, Victoria said. But I also need something else. Something I can't buy or manipulate. She looked at him. I need someone I can trust. Someone with integrity. Someone who knows medicine and ethics and what it means to actually save lives, rather than just profit from them. What are you asking? Be my chief medical officer. Not now, after you get your license back. I'll fund the legal battle, hire the best lawyers. Your skills, my resources. We rebuild Ashford Pharma into what it should have been from the start. A company that actually helps people. Marcus stared at her. You barely know me. I know enough, Victoria said softly. Lily sees people. So do I. When I allow myself to look. You're brilliant, compassionate, and broken in all the ways that make someone truly understand suffering. You're exactly what medicine needs. What I need. For the first time since Sarah died, Marcus felt something other than grief. He felt hope. 72 hours later, the emergency board meeting was packed. Press lined the walls. This had become the corporate story of the year. Victoria Ashford's downfall or resurrection. Victoria entered wearing armor disguised as a business suit, blood red, perfectly tailored. Marcus walked beside her in a borrowed suit and newly restored confidence. They'd spent 3 days building the case, and it was ironclad. Harold Chen sat at the head of the table, already playing CEO. James stood behind him, looking smug. "Ms. Ashford," Harold said with false politeness, "I'm afraid you no longer have standing to." "Sit down, Harold." Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. "Before you humiliate yourself further." She gestured to Marcus, who connected a laptop to the projector. Numbers appeared. Transaction records, offshore accounts, encrypted emails. "James Chen," Victoria announced, "has embezzled $4.2 million over 3 years. Harold Chen accepted payments totaling $1.8 million from Genfarm, our primary competitor, in exchange for sabotaging our research programs and feeding them proprietary information." The room erupted. James went white. Harold lunged to his feet. "This is fabricated, desperate lies from a woman who—" "The SEC has copies," Victoria continued calmly. "As does the FBI. You're both under investigation for corporate espionage and fraud. Security, please escort them out." 2 federal agents appeared in the doorway. James and Harold were led out in handcuffs, their protests fading down the hallway. Victoria turned to the remaining board members. "Anyone else have objections to my leadership?" Silence. "Excellent. Now let's discuss the company's new direction. Starting with this man." She gestured to Marcus. "Dr. Marcus Chen, former trauma surgeon, currently fighting to restore his medical license. When, not if, he succeeds, he'll be joining Ashford Pharmaceutical as Chief Medical Officer." "He's a janitor," one board member sputtered. "He's a doctor who chose his daughter over his career," Victoria stated firmly. Victoria corrected. "Who saved my life when I was having a panic attack? Who understands that medicine is about people, not profit margins? We're going to build a new division. Low-cost medications for chronic conditions, especially pediatric care. Fully funded research grants for treatments that don't have corporate backing." "That's not profitable," another member objected. "It's right," Victoria said simply. "And it's what we're doing. Profitability will follow. It always does when you solve real problems." She looked at Marcus. "What do you think, Dr. Chen?" Marcus stepped forward. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like a doctor again. "I think we start with pediatric cardiac conditions. There are 7,000 kids on waiting lists for surgeries like my daughter needs. If we can reduce costs by even 30% through better drug protocols, we save hundreds of lives. And that's just the beginning." Victoria smiled. "Motion to reinstate me as CEO and approve the new medical initiative." It passed unanimously. The operating theater at Ashford Memorial was state-of-the-art perfection. Marcus stood in the observation gallery, hands pressed against the glass, watching the surgical team work on Lily's heart. Victoria stood beside him, silent and present. "I can't watch," Marcus whispered, "but I can't look away." "She's strong," Victoria said, "like her father." The surgery took 6 hours. 6 hours of Marcus barely breathing, of Victoria making calls from the hallway to distract herself, of both of them learning what it meant to be completely helpless while someone you love is under the knife. Finally, the lead surgeon emerged, pulling off his mask. The surgery was successful. Lily's heart is repaired. She's going to recover fully. Marcus collapsed into a chair, his face in his hands, sobbing with relief. Victoria sat beside him and did something she'd never done voluntarily in her adult life. She put her arm around another human being and held them while they cried. "Thank you," Marcus choked out. "Thank you for giving her a future." "Thank you," Victoria replied quietly, "for giving me a reason to remember why futures matter." The newly renovated pediatric wing of Ashford Memorial gleamed with sunlight and hope. The walls were painted in gentle colors, decorated with children's art, a playground visible through the windows. Marcus walked the halls in a white coat again, not as a janitor, but as Dr. Chen, medical director. His license had been restored after Victoria's legal team presented evidence of bias and procedural violations in the original hearing. Pemberton had quietly resigned after his own ethical violations came to light. Lily ran down the hall, fully recovered, her laughter echoing off the walls. She wore a t-shirt that said Heart Warrior and carried a stuffed lion Victoria had given her. "Papa, Queen Victoria is here." Victoria entered wearing less armor these days, still professional, still powerful, but softened at the edges. She'd started therapy, started processing her sister's death, started allowing herself to feel things. "How's our first week?" she asked Marcus. 15 surgeries scheduled, 30 more on the waiting list. We've already reduced costs by 40% through the new protocols. Marcus smiled, a real smile, the first in years. "We're saving lives, Victoria, actually saving them." "We are," Victoria agreed. She looked around the wing. "I want to name it after someone who taught me that strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about choosing to rebuild after you shatter." She gestured to the wall where a plaque was being installed, the Sarah Chen Memorial Pediatric Cardiac Wing. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Victoria, She should be remembered," Victoria said softly. "And so should my sister. We're building the Elena Ashford Research Center next door. They would have liked each other, I think." Lily appeared between them, taking each of their hands. "Can we get ice cream? Papa says we can celebrate good days with ice cream." Victoria looked at Marcus. Something passed between them. Not quite romantic yet, but the recognition of possibility. Of two broken people who'd found each other in their darkest moments and chosen to build light together. "Ice cream sounds perfect," Victoria said. The rooftop garden of Ashford Memorial had become a sanctuary. Marcus had designed it, a healing space where patients and families could find peace. Evening descended in shades of gold. Marcus pushed Lily on the swing set he'd installed, her laughter bright as bells. Other children played nearby, heart surgery survivors, cancer patients in remission, kids who'd been given second chances. Victoria sat on a bench, reviewing contracts, but looking up frequently to watch. She'd learned to balance work and life, power and vulnerability, control and surrender. Marcus joined her eventually, Lily having run off to play with other kids. "I've been thinking," Victoria said, "about expansion. We could open 5 more wings like this across the country, fund 100 research projects, change everything." "You're going to save the world," Marcus said, smiling. "We are," Victoria corrected, "together." She looked at him, and the ice in her eyes had melted completely, replaced by something warm and alive. "I never thanked you properly for that night at the gala. You didn't have to help me." "Yes, I did," Marcus said. "Lily saw you, and she taught me something. When you recognize pain in someone else, you help, no matter who they are, no matter the cost. Your daughter is wise beyond her years. She's a survivor, like us." Victoria reached out, slowly, carefully, giving him time to refuse, and took his hand, their fingers intertwined. Scarred palms pressed together. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted quietly. "Relationships. Trust. I've spent 15 years building walls." "I don't either," Marcus replied. "I've spent 3 years convinced I didn't deserve to be happy again. That moving forward meant betraying Sarah's memory." "What changed?" "Lily asked me what Mama would want. and I realized Sarah would want me to live, to love, to be present for the life I still have instead of mourning the one I lost. He squeezed Victoria's hand. And you? What changed for you? You, Victoria said simply. You and Lily. You showed me that being strong doesn't mean being alone. That letting people in isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the city, watching the children play, watching the world continue its turning. Lily ran over. Breathless and beaming. Papa, Queen Victoria, come see, we built a castle in the sandbox. They followed her to an elaborate sand construction, where several children worked together, building towers and walls and bridges. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Marcus said. It's like us, Lily announced. Papa says when things break, you can build something new, something better. The castle broke 3 times, but we kept making it stronger. Victoria knelt beside the castle, this powerful woman in an expensive suit, crouching in the sand with children. That's very wise, Lily. I know, Lily said matter-of-factly. Then she looked between her father and Victoria. Are you going to get married? Both adults froze. Marcus coughed. Victoria's eyes went wide. Lily, we're just Marcus started. Friends, Victoria finished. But her hand was still in Marcus's. Lily rolled her eyes, with the exasperation only a child can muster. Grown-ups are so silly. You hold hands and look at each other all mushy, and Papa smiles again. And Queen Victoria isn't scary anymore. That's married. It's more complicated than, Marcus began. Is it? Victoria interrupted, looking at him. Really looking at him. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's exactly that simple. Marcus met her gaze. In it, he saw everything they'd survived. Loss, betrayal, despair, resurrection. Continue. 1752. He saw the future they were building together, for Lily, for the children in this hospital, for themselves. Maybe you're right, he said softly. Victoria smiled. The real smile she'd learned from them, the one that reached her eyes and warmed her entire face. Lily, how would you feel if I spent more time with you and your papa? Officially. Like family? Lily asked hopefully. Like family, Victoria confirmed. Lily launched herself at Victoria, wrapping small arms around her neck. I always wanted a mom. And a queen mom is even better. Victoria held the child, this precious, perceptive little girl who'd seen through her walls and saved her life by asking one simple question. Are you sad? Marcus wrapped his arms around both of them, this makeshift family forged from pain and rebuilt from love. Above them, the sky blazed gold and crimson. Behind them, the hospital hummed with healing. Around them, children played, survivors all, fighters all. Living testaments to second chances. Thank you, Victoria whispered to Marcus over Lily's head, for seeing me, for trusting me, for teaching me how to be human again. Thank you, Marcus replied, for giving us a future, for showing me that broken doesn't mean finished. They stood together as the sun set, a janitor who'd been a doctor, a CEO who'd been frozen, and a child who'd saved them both by simply caring. The empire Victoria had built would go on to change medicine forever. Marcus would restore his reputation and train the next generation of compassionate physicians. Lily would grow up to become a pediatric cardiologist, helping children like herself. But that night, in a rooftop garden overlooking Manhattan, they were just 3 people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to build light. 3 people who'd learned that the most powerful force in the universe isn't money or status or control. It's love, messy, complicated, terrifying, and achingly beautiful. It's the courage to be vulnerable. It's the choice to rebuild after shattering. It's coming home late at night and finding someone waiting, not to clean your house, but to remind you that you're not alone. The heart that broke the empire was also the heart that made it whole.